I'm excited to launch this new podcast, A Super Conversation. The idea is simple, to better get to know people who are key stakeholders in Lynn Public Schools. I want it to be light, though meaningful, as we hear from people who are invested in our district. I am very pleased to have as my inaugural guest a person who just went through an important inauguration of his own, starting his second term as mayor of the city of Lynn. Prior to being elected mayor, he served 3 terms on the Lynn School Committee and was a law professor at Northeastern University, where he worked with small businesses. He also worked as a business lawyer for startups and a legal services attorney, providing free legal help to small businesses in support of community growth. A graduate of Princeton University and Harvard Law School. He is fluent in Spanish. He lives in the city with his wife, Catherine, and their 2 sons. Welcome to A Super Conversation, Mayor Jared Nicholson.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, so why don't we start with the educational journey that brought you to where you are today as mayor?
Yeah, absolutely. So education has always been a huge priority of my family. My mom was a teacher, an early education teacher, and you know, they say your parents are your first educators, and that was certainly true with my parents. I have lots of memories of us, particularly reading. My brother is about 3 years younger than me, which is the same difference as my 2 sons. And I remember after my brother was born, my mom, you know, who had just given birth and was taking care of the baby, really making deliberate efforts to like get time with me to read and to take us out to different parts of the house or different parts of the yard and have time that we connected like that and read. And that's always been a huge priority for her and for us, that focus on education. Yeah,
that's really interesting. So your mom was a pre-K educator, and when you came in onto the school department, into the school committee, one of your platforms or one of your major initiatives was around pre-K. Is that a direct influence of your mom?
Yeah, absolutely. I think clearly she understood the importance and passed that along. I also had the opportunity to really explore that and understand that from different perspectives as well. I studied public policy in college and did a lot on education policy. And I did various internships at different organizations, including Jumpstart, which is a big early education nonprofit in the area. And, you know, personally, I saw the importance of it, but also the data and the research on it is just unequivocal. The return on investment for early education, the difference that intervention makes when you're 3 or 4 to when you're 15, 16, and even an adult, your earnings, your general options in life. So it has been a huge priority, and I've been really proud to work on that in my current role.
Yeah, maybe you want to share a little bit about reading in your home with your sons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so pre-K is important to me. My mom was a pre-K teacher. I know the research. I also now have preschoolers.
Yes, exactly.
In the house. My sons are 6 and 3, and yeah, the time we get reading together is so precious and something that I really treasure. And you know, being a mayor, there's a lot going on, and I'm really dedicated to the work. One of the advantages is that I'm local. I don't really have a commute, and so I'm able to pop home here and there and read with my kids and continue to fulfill my duties as mayor, which has been amazing.
That's an important question, actually. How do you balance all of the responsibility of being a mayor and being a family man? You talk about popping in, but it must get really challenging sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is a lot to balance. I mean, the role itself is a lot to balance. We're a big city and a lot going on, and there's a lot that as mayor I'm responsible for and involved in. But you know, I'm very clearly I believe a dad first and a husband first, and I think one of the benefits of a job like mayor is that I am serving the community in which I'm raising my family, and that's a really a big part of what drives me to want to do this work. And it also just logistically, like I'm in the city, and so I can drop off my kids in the morning, and I do, and that is something that I'm really happy to be able to accomplish.
Yeah, I'd like to shift to what attracted you to moving to Lynn, but before I do, I must share that my favorite part of the inauguration, your second inauguration, was when your son tried to carry and hold the Bible on stage. That was just such a precious moment, and that they witness your civic duty and your service to the city is really a beautiful thing. So I am curious, though, what brought you to Lynn?
So I worked in business before I was in law school, and I went to law school because I was interested in doing more public service type work, and I did a lot of legal aid when I was in law school as a student lawyer, and I got really interested in that kind of legal work, and I had an opportunity to do a fellowship, to design a project to do this fellowship, and work on kind of any issue you wanted to propose, and I wanted to work with entrepreneurs, small businesses, and provide legal support to small businesses and support of community growth. And I wanted to do it in Lynn. I was really attracted to the city. I spoke Spanish. I worked in Latin America before law school. And I also had old family ties to Lynn, which is part of what drew me to the city, but also to do this work. And so I got the fellowship. And after law school, my then girlfriend and I moved to Lynn.
So what were the family connections?
My great-grandfather was born in Lynn, went to Lynn Classical, which we're here now, and his father was a veteran of the Civil War, became a brigadier general in the Mass National Guard, and was also the city treasurer back in the day.
Wow! So you really have roots here in the city.
Yeah, I mean it's been a while, obviously.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, I really looked up to my grandfather, who was a World War II Purple Heart veteran, and he had really idolized his grandfather, who was the city treasurer of Lynn and a Civil War veteran. And so I spent a lot of summers, learning those stories and looking through his artifacts, and it became a big part of, I think, my sort of conception of public service.
Well, I have to share with you that your love for the city really translates, and I was curious before this moment, where that came from. So that's fascinating. Now, what about the Spanish, pursuing Spanish? Where in your life did you decide that Spanish was what you wanted to study and learn?
So I studied it in school, like I took Spanish courses in high school and in college, but I really didn't learn to speak it until I lived in Latin America. When I worked in management consulting for a couple of years, and oftentimes they ask you to do it's like a 2-year program. They'll ask you to do a third year maybe, and do something a little bit more specialized. And I got really interested in wanting to work abroad for the experience, and particularly in Latin America for the experience of working in what was then a really, dynamic economy in terms of growth, particularly coming out of the Great Recession that was happening back here. And so I was able to transfer to our Mexico City office. I worked there for a year. I did projects in the Dominican Republic and in Peru, in addition to in Mexico. And my Spanish was not great to start. I got a lot better having forced to do it. At first, they had me just do all the financial work because my Spanish was so bad. But it got better, and it's been, I think, a huge asset in my legal aid work when I first started here, and now my work is better.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'd like to talk a little bit about language development, because I also was a terrible language learner, and it really helped me actually to be a better teacher, because I understood how challenging it really is. And so what would you say to our audience about what was challenging for you in terms of being a learner? Was it like listening? Was it pronunciation? And then what were your strategies for pursuing it and really learning it better?
Yeah, I think the listening, the comprehension was a real challenge for me, and part of it was, people have different accents, and then the other thing I figured out as I was actually spending time there is the slang. And that is such a key part of people's conversations, and you don't learn that in school. But then when you figure out those key words, it kind of unlocks a lot of meaning. And there's also there was an element, particularly for me, where I am just relying on the kindness of the people around me to like get me through. Like I have memories of people, sort of getting frustrated with me, and then really relying on my colleagues to sort of smooth things over. And I'm always grateful for that.
Yeah. Would you say you're an audio learner or a visual learner, or have you not noticed? Is it both for you?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think it's both. And I also. I'm far from a native speaker, and so I try to be mindful of that in the situations I put myself in. And we have a great team in the mayor's office, and can provide live translation, interpretation. Berta Tavares is our language access coordinator, and so a lot of what we do relies on that team. But just trying to put yourself out there, I think people appreciate it.
Yes, I agree. So talking about your office, you have 50 flags around your office, and diversity is, a key central part of your mayorship. I wonder, what would you attribute that to?
Well, so the flags you mentioned are in my office. The Lynn City Hall was built in the 1940s, and probably a different conception of municipal government, I would say, because if you walk in the mayor's office, it's huge. It's way bigger than you need as an office. It becomes like a meeting room, right?
Yeah.
But I had this issue where I became mayor, and my predecessor had a very impressive and storied career in the legislature, as did his father before him. And so the walls were filled with like very cool memorabilia. And I was like, what am I going to put on these walls? They're ginormous. And for my inauguration, the backdrop was the flags. We asked for the Lynn Public Schools for a list of languages spoken, and that's what we put. I ran a campaign devoted to the idea that Lynn should be a place for all of us, and to a place where we celebrate this kind of diversity. And that was a message I wanted to send at the inauguration. And we decided to move those flags to my office, and so it's a message that we try to send every day.
Yeah, that's fabulous. You've been a great partner, both as a school committee member and as mayor to the Lynn Public Schools. And I'm wondering about how did your first role, I believe school committee was your first touch with politics, right? Your first kind of endeavor there. How did that prepare you for being mayor?
I think it's been really helpful. I think people may not realize the amount of education that falls in the mayor's day-to-day responsibilities. And that's unique to Massachusetts. As I've gotten to know other systems around the country, a lot of school districts are governed totally separately from the municipality. And in Massachusetts, a lot of the mayors are chairs of the school committee. And that's by design, to try to have better coordination. But in Lynn, the Lynn Public Schools is about half the city budget.
Correct.
If you think about it in terms of like the dollars we spend on education, it's way higher than that. It's almost 2/3. So having experience with my school background, I think has been really helpful in not having the same kind of learning curve that I otherwise would have.
Yeah, and I really appreciate your first platform, and it's continued. It's a core value for you that everybody is welcome and that this is everyone's city. Recently, you signed an executive order around some of the immigration issues that we've had both nationally and at the state and in our city. And that I'm sure that's a difficult decision. How verbal do you get? How out there do you get? And yet you represent a very diverse population. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you came to make the decision to follow in the footsteps of our governor, who made that announcement a couple of weeks ago, and the other mayors?
Yeah, so no, it's a great question, and this has been a really challenging time for the country and for the city. It certainly feels like cities like Lynn are under attack within this administration, unfortunately. And we have wrestled with, I think, some difficult questions. And what's difficult about the questions is the limitations we have as local officials, the legal ambiguities about how to hold the federal government accountable. What's not difficult is the moral question of what's happening, because what's happening is wrong. And I think we've really tried to stand firm on our values while also thinking about how do we actually best serve the people who are most directly affected. And I think with this executive order, we are responding to experiences that we've had in the past as a city during the previous waves of immigration enforcement that we've experienced, but also what's happening around the country and seeing the ways in which those have escalated, and understanding that with the real influx of resources that federal immigration enforcement has received, that there is a possibility for the return of those kinds of surges, and wanting to be ready for those moments.
Right. And recently, too, on another note, you build coalitions. That's what you do, right? You build teams. And so just the other day, we met at City Hall around an anti-violence, anti-gun coalition or team. Do you want to speak about broadly how that strategy has worked for you, pulling people together from different areas or agencies to work on one problem in our city?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. It's absolutely critical if you want to get anything done, and I think it's also one of the ways in which mayors can be more helpful in using the power of convening. Because, as mayor, ultimately, I try to take responsibility for everything that happens in this community, but my authority only goes so far, and so you need to pull other people in if you really want to bring about positive change. And violence is one of those issues that is so basic, our wanting to give our young people a chance to survive, and so it is important. And I really believe strongly that it's a law enforcement priority, but it's also a responsibility of the entire community to really repair the root causes of violence. And if you want to do that, if you want to get to the root causes, you got to bring everybody in, and you got to build out those kind of broad coalitions. And we're really fortunate that we have amazing partners in the city. I mean, Lynn Public Schools and you, Superintendent, and your leadership is certainly one of them. Also, the Lynn Police Department and the District Attorney, our community organizations like ROCA and LISOA. And I mean, you were there the other day. We had dozens and dozens of people after City Hall had closed coming out for this issue and wanting to work together, and we're going to continue to make progress on it.
Yeah. People come. They want to make our city better, make our city stronger. So I have to ask, what's on the horizon? You have so many things running, and yet I see behind your eye, in your brain, there's so many things. So what future plans do you want to pursue?
Well, I think education is always a top priority, and there's lots that we're doing together, I think, to improve the educational experience for our students and our families and our teachers and staff. And the biggest project we have going is the construction of the new Pickering Middle School, and that'll open in less than 2 years, hopefully. And we're really excited about that. And that'll have solved overcrowding, I think, at the middle school level. And with all the progress we've made at the secondary level and in adding Frederick Douglass Collegiate Academy and CASA and expansion at Lynn Tech, I'm really excited about where we are there, and know that there's so much amazing work happening about how do we now improve on and deliver the education that we all want to see. And excited about that.
Thank you. So let's go a little lighter. I know that you have a big fan club of 4th and 5th grade students. We've talked about that. You have a little following going in that department. So if a 4th grader were to come up to you and say, "Mayor, tell me the do's and don'ts of being a mayor," what would you tell that 4th grader?
I would say do listen. You always want to be able to hear what is on people's minds and what their opinion is, and make sure that you make that a priority. Don't be afraid to make a decision, and understand that if you do listen, you will have a good idea of at least what the pros and cons of any course of action is going to be, and then you gotta move on with the community, and that's really important.
All right, that's great advice. Thank you so much. We're going to go even lighter.
Okay.
We're going to do the lightning round. Okay.
Go.
So, ready? Mm-hmm. Favorite food?
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti?
Yeah,
All right.
spaghetti.
Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite blue, like as in the Lynn Public Schools blue?
Yeah.
All right, I like that. Favorite type of music?
I listen to all types of music. Right now, I listen to a lot of hard rock because that's what my 6-year-old likes.
All right. Favorite book? I got two though. Favorite book for you? Favorite book to read to your sons?
My favorite book is Moby Dick, and my favorite book to read to my sons maybe Little Blue Truck.
All right. So call me Ishmael. I have to know. Moby Dick?
Yeah, it's the great American novel, and it is different from different perspectives, and has, I think, a really fascinating approach to the biggest questions in life about who are we, why are we here, in very interesting and surprising ways.
Excellent. Okay. Favorite movie?
Rocky.
Rocky Balboa. All right. And finally, because I must ask you, if it comes down to Princeton or Harvard in a wrestling match?
Princeton every time.
Princeton. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that so much. That was really fun. It's so great to get to know the man behind the role a little bit. And so, thank you everyone for coming to hear Mayor Nicholson, our first guest, and getting this new adventure off to a great start. Thank you to our classical students and TV teacher, Sean Donahue, for producing, and please join us for future editions of A Super Conversation.